In this video, we're going to show you how to go about creating this little crown design. Now, this was an image that was provided, and the customer is looking for this design to be 4 inches overall width, so fairly small crown, but we could use it in a variety of different ways at that 4-inch size. Now, they did request that we don't use any SS6 stones in the design, which of course we know is not typical for us. A lot of people will say that they struggle with SS6 stones, and I'm not quite sure why that is, because honestly, if your template is cut right, you shouldn't really struggle with SS6 stones that much. Yes, they're a little bit trickier because they are a smaller stone, but if your template circle is cut just right, your SS6 stone should flow in quite easily. And one other point to make too is if you're using machine cut stones, SS6 stones, those are slightly larger than the Korean ones, and those actually do flow in pretty nicely. So it's just a matter of technique, getting used to it. Yes, they're probably a little bit more difficult, but if your template is cut right, you definitely shouldn't struggle much. And we have a couple of video demonstrations that show you, just using the same tools that you have, nothing special, but when that template is zeroed in and cut right, those SS6 stones should flow right in pretty simple. Now, what we're going to do here is we're going to use predominantly SS10 stones, but I might stray a little bit from the request and sprinkle in a couple of bigger stones. Now, when you place a stone order with us, we typically give you all the larger crystal sizes. So we'll give you some 16s, some 20s, some 30s, 34s, and even some 40s, because we do use those bigger stones, especially in crystal, in quite a few designs. And I think a couple of bigger stones will make this crown here look a little bit nicer than just using all SS10s, but we won't use any SS6s. So with that said, the first thing we want to do is resize the source reference image. So we'll go ahead and select that, and here in the Specialty tab in Easy Stone we'll hit Set Size, and we'll pick the left most point and the right most point, and then we'll go ahead and reset it. Now the request was 4 inches, so we'll go ahead and reset the design to 4 inches. So we hit and resize. Alright, so now we have our bitmap the way we need it. We'll go ahead and lock it down so we can't accidentally move it. Now, when we're working with a crown like this, I probably would only focus on half of the design because it is symmetrical left to right. So what I want to do is go ahead and add a guideline right down the middle. Now you can see I have my rulers visible here in CorelDRAW. If your rulers are not visible, you can come over here to the View menu and find rulers. Some older versions of CorelDRAW, you might have to come down to the Show menu and look at rulers. But at any rate, there it is, rulers right there. We'll pull this over, and that will kind of be our center point for what we're going to do. Alright, so now with that done, let's go ahead and begin the process here. So what I might do is go ahead and grab my ellipse tool here in CorelDRAW and drag out an ellipse, and we'll go ahead and put the center of that right there on our guideline, and we'll just kind of pull it down so you can kind of see how this ellipse goes. So the first thing you want to do, you can see the first set of stones here, they kind of come around, but then they stop. And then they stop over here too. So again, we're really only going to focus on half of the design, but this will get us started here. So what we're going to do here is we're going to convert the ellipse to what they call a curve, and then we're going to grab our shape tool, and I'm just going to double click right there. And over here, it doesn't really matter where I click, but I'll approximate that it's exactly the same. But again, it doesn't really matter. And then what we're going to do is we're going to select that node and select this node and use ban. And what that does is it breaks at those two nodes, so we can delete that center portion right there. And so if we wanted to, what we could then do is take that green line and we could add some stones to it. And you can see we would get basically what the original design was. Alright, so then what we want to do is we want to offset that right here. So we'll offset that. So that we'll come over here to the Stone Fill tab, and we're going to do one island fill, and if we right click, it'll offset to the outside. Okay, and then we're going to kind of do the same thing that we did previously, where we're just going to double click on the line here. That will take us into our shape edit tool here in CorelDRAW, and we're just going to double click where we want that path, and I'm going to click a ban right there, and it'll break right at that point. And then we have to kind of do the same thing over here. We have to break it somewhere. It doesn't really matter where. So we'll just click there and ban that too. And then we can delete this segment right here. Now remember, we're really only focusing on half of this design. So what I think I'm going to do is I'm just going to come in here tight and double click on my line. That takes us into the shape tool, and you can see we already have a node that's right dead center, which actually is perfect for us. So we'll go ahead and ban it there too, and we can delete the right hand side there. So now we don't have any of that to worry about. We just have this on the right hand side, these two parts. Alright, so we have that. So let's go ahead and put our stones on those two lines. I wonder here, yes, it does. See, we do have a node already dead center there too. So let's double click and ban that, break it nodes, and we'll get rid of that. So now we'll just add stones to these two lines. Now we're already using SS10 stones. We're using crystal, so we're just going to click AS and it adds those stones for us. And then let's go ahead and select those two lines and we'll delete our stone paths. And then for the rest of it, we can just kind of do whatever we want to. Now the reason that I wanted to apply stones first before moving on is I want to, like, this stone is already in place, so we're just going to kind of come up here, select these two, and if I hit Shift AS, what it does is it allows us to bend that line. It moves into that next step for us where we're going to bend that line, and then I can select those stone paths and delete the path, and then we can just kind of keep going. So you can see here we can tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to manually place a stone right there, and then we'll take that manual place stone and this one, Shift AS, and we'll kind of do the same thing there. We'll delete that, and then let's see, what do we want to do next? We'll go ahead and place one there, place one in the middle, then we'll connect these two, Shift AS, and we'll go ahead and kind of bend it that way. And we're only using this original graphic as a guide, so we can kind of vary off a little bit from the original design. So let's see, what do we want to do here? I think I'm going to come up and we'll place a design stone right there. So let me show you what I did there. I just pull the stone up. If I hold my Shift key, it'll snap to perfectly vertical, and then right click to make a duplicate. Okay, and then I have to decide if that's what I want, and I don't think that is what I want. So I'm going to hold down my Alt key and click over. Let me back that up, Alt and Control, and that'll offset. And so now I have one on each side, but there's exactly a ½ millimeter in between. So I think that's what I prefer. And now let's see what I want to do here. Because I'm going to do something different in the middle here anyhow, so I'll just go ahead and manually place a stone there for now. And let's go ahead and connect those two. And we'll go right into modifying the path. So we'll bend our path a little bit there. And then we can delete our path. We don't need that anymore. And then I think what I'm going to do is I'll just connect these two. Sometimes I just, basically you just make it up as you go along. And we'll go ahead and delete that. I think that's coming along pretty good. Alright, so once you kind of get it to the point where you think you're pretty happy with the first half, sometimes it's helpful to pull it away and look at it just by itself. Alright, so you can kind of see it looks a little bit plain here. In fact, if I were to select this and flip it over, and we'll set those right on top, now we can kind of see what we have to look at here. And while it doesn't look bad, we might want to dress it up a little bit more. So let's just see what happens if we just start placing some stones manually. So I'm going to place a big one. I'm going to go with a 20, and we're just going to go ahead and see. I don't know if that's big enough. Let's go with a 30. So I'm going to right click to change my stone size to 30, and then I'm going to right click on AS to drop a single stone and hit escape. Now, if we wanted to change this to a 34, what we could do is you could just select it and hit Shift SS30, and that will switch it to a 34. We ran out of space here on the interface, so anyhow, that's how you would change it, but we won't. We'll just stick it with a 30, and we could center it by selecting that stone in the middle and hitting the C key. That will center things up nicely for us. So there's one SS30, and I think that actually looks pretty good. I'll bring this one down, and we'll make that one SS20, which I think that will dress that up a little bit. And then here, let's go ahead and let's see what an SS16 would look like there. And I guess that looks okay. And then I think I'm going to drop a 20 right there. And let's change that color. And this is a SS16, so let's go ahead and change that as well. And you know, I do like that a little bit better. So just those couple of stones, those larger stones, you know, do make it dress it up a little bit. So now what we need to do is we need to take these stones that we placed over here on the left, and we need to place them in the exact same spot here on the right. And of course, the way we're going to do that is by using an anchor stone. So let's select these stones. We'll hold our Shift key, select the 4 stones that we want to kind of copy and mirror, and then we need that anchor. So we'll hold our Shift key again, and we'll use a center stone for our anchor, and then we'll grab our control handle, drag it over here, and if we hold the control key, it'll snap to the proper proportions. So here we have stretched out stones, control key we don't, and then if we right click, that will make us a duplicate, and then we can pick up our anchor stone here from the center and drag it over to the center, and then we get exact same stone placement over here on the right that we had over here on the left. And so I think I'm happy with that. We'll just leave the little basic crown just like that, and I think that will get the job done. So what we want to do now is go ahead and select the entire design and hit C for check spacing. That will take care of any overlapping stones we have. And that is basically the finished product. So we'll always make a duplicate just like this, and then one of them is going to get simulated, and our proof is going to be generated for us to show us what stones we used, how big the design is overall, and you can see there is the finished crown. Of course, it adds our watermark too, so pretty handy. And then for over here, for this design, I would just export this as a single template. We'll just hand place those larger stones in with the wax pencils that we send you. If you place an order with us, typically you always get a wax pencil with it, so you can manually place those few larger stones, and then we can sweep in all of our SS10s. So that is how you go about making your little crown there. We didn't use any SS6s, so this should be a nice, easy crown for you that you can mass produce quite simply. Thanks for watching.